Hi, and we're so fortunate to have Assembly Member Jenifer Rajkumar, a member of the New Democratic actually now, and New Democratic Dimensions, of which I'm founder and chair. My co-chair, Tom Acosta, couldn't be with us this morning, but he welcomes you as well and thanks you, Jenifer. So New Democratic Dimensions is an organization of independent thinking Democrats, large and small d, dedicated to strengthening America through promoting public awareness, encouraging participation in the electoral and governmental process, and striving for the betterment of democracy. Recognizing that mindsets from the past may prevent us from acting in the present, NDD envisions creating a positive vision and framework for the future, and we couldn't have more representative person in terms of that kind of thinking than Jenifer Rajkumar. Jenifer, you were just elected, relatively. It's now a while, but this is your first term. I really want to start with, what's it like? What's it been like for
you? It has been an incredible 5 months. It feels like much longer than 5 months. So much has happened, because not only was I elected during the COVID-19 pandemic, I took office during the pandemic. So I'm representing a district with many needs here in South Queens. And I'm grateful to be in this leadership position at this time, because this is exactly the time that we need leadership.
And you're really a first of your community that was elected. Tell us a bit about that, and I think even step forward and introduce the.
So I'm the first South Asian woman to be elected to a state office in New York. And I'm certainly not the last one. I know that we have broken down the barriers. And I'm so honored and humbled to have made that history for the community. And when I was elected, I received a lot of support from South Asian families, Bangladeshi families and Guyanese families, Punjabi families who called me, and they all said that we voted for you. They called me and they said, we voted for you. Our grandparents voted for you, our nieces, our nephews, the whole family went out and voted for you. We were able to cross-cut. So I'm very proud of the fact that we won in every neighborhood, across every demographic, and even across political ideology. So we won in very progressive areas. And then we also won conservative Democrats. So this is the kind of unity that I hope to bring. And I really hope to bring people together and to collaborate to get things done.
So I really want to switch to Albany, actually, in terms of collaboration. What are you finding up there? Is the thinking about all people, is it in terms of legislation, in terms of the discussion you all have? What's the current state of Albany as we come through into this post-pandemic era?
I think that crisis makes things clear. Many of the legislators really feel a sense of urgency to deliver for people who are struggling and hurting right now. And that is exactly what we have done so far. So as you know, we passed a historic budget, a $212 billion budget. And this budget was really incredible. It included an unprecedented amount of funding for our public schools. So the CFE monies have finally been released, and there's going to be an influx of $1.4 billion every year for 3 years to our public schools.
Wow.
It's going to focus on the neediest schools. So this has the potential to transform education in our city. And I am very looking forward to that. There's also in higher education, a lot of historic investments. There's a freeze on tuition hikes for 3 years, which advocates fought for. That made it into the budget as well. The budget is very, very strong on education.
So one of the things that we see is you know, and you see it in the headlines day in and day out, is this issue of hate, the issue of how do we turn that around in terms of people working with other people. And the state, obviously, regulation, and it came up the other day in a community in terms of even bail reform and people who commit hate crimes, and where are we? What's the discussion up there about things that need get done to bring people together?
Hate crimes has been a very big concern of late. The Asians are now the group experiencing the highest rate of hate crimes across the country. And that includes South Asians. Punjabi Americans, Sikh Americans who wear the turban are one of the most highly targeted religious groups in the country. Just the other week in Brooklyn, a Sikh hotel worker was hit with a hammer. So the budget actually invests $10 million in initiatives to help end Asian hate crimes. And I think this has been on the minds of many legislators. When I go to my district and speak to Bangladeshi leaders, their top concern is safety and protection. Their number one concern. So it is going to be very important to make sure that there's unity in the city and that we have police protection for such communities. That's going to mean that police and minority communities have to work together. And it's my hope to facilitate that relationship.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, which is police and community working together, because there obviously has been discussion in terms of police, certain levels saying reducing funding and other things, others who understand the importance of having police in communities, but having better understanding between everybody. What's your thinking on that? What's the Albany thinking on that?
I do believe that minority communities and police have to trust each other. They have to work together. And I think that there's a lot of legislators in Albany who have been there many, many years and are very reasonable about this. I mean, I do believe that we need to pay attention to where we allocate our resources and make sure we're empowering minority communities and that we are breaking the school to prison pipeline where so many kids go straight from school to prisons. So that kind of criminal justice reform is definitely on the minds of many legislators. We passed a historic law this session, the HALT bill, to limit solitary confinement. So you can only be in solitary confinement now for a maximum of 15 consecutive days before you have to be released. So that's one criminal justice reform that was enacted.
So tell us something else that's an important issue in Albany, whether it be economic or otherwise, that we should be paying attention to, and that when you got up there, you said, boy, this is important. I hadn't really thought about it, or it was the first thing on my mind, and I'm glad they're taking it up.
One issue I think is very important has to deal with COVID. So our healthcare system has been crashing. And in the mix is something very valuable that most people don't know about. When Trump got COVID, he got an antibody cocktail, the monoclonal antibody cocktail, that has increasingly been shown to save lives. If you receive this monoclonal antibody infusion within 7 days of receiving a positive COVID test, your chances of complications or death decrease by 70%. So I have a bill that I have introduced that aims to make sure that hospitals administer that drug to high-risk COVID patients. It could save lives. That drug is free. It's sitting in hospitals, and hospitals have only used 20% of it. So the problem is really a procedural one. It's a bureaucratic one. Hospitals are so overburdened and they've been crashing. So there's a life-saving treatment that's sitting there that just has not been used. So my bill will make sure patients know about it, and that if they want access to the treatment will be given.
What can we do all about it? I mean, I understand it may be a bureaucratic mess, but the thought, of course, everything has been vaccine. it's bewildered a lot of us, what you're saying, that things are sitting there that could be used. Nobody's talking about it, been around for months. What can we all do to support efforts like yours, to say to hospitals, this is unacceptable, we just, we need to cure?
This people make things happen. So legislators are always listening to what we're saying. So I've been mobilizing around this issue, and we have 5 weeks left of session, and I'm very hopeful that we can get it passed. But anybody who wants to help, they should please call my office, and we will welcome their help. It's needed right now to get this done.
So we only got a couple of minutes left, but I really would like to look to, as you look to your next term and next 20 terms and becoming speaker and who knows what else.
Wow.
What things go on the list as they're talked about of dreams, but difficult in terms of legislating and somehow needing all of us to pull together to get done for New York, so we become a global leader on certain issues of importance, whether it be green or otherwise?
Making life easier for workers is very important. My district here in South Queens includes essential workers, many Uber drivers, for example. I favor all kinds of laws and reforms. I believe we all need to unify behind them that make life just a little easier for workers. That makes all the difference. I just introduced a bill, Howard, just this past week. And what it does is it requires ride-hail companies to classify their employees as legally employees, because right now they're classified as independent contractors. If they're classified as employees, they receive full benefits. So reforms like this can help people get by, can help people make it. And when they make it, their children make it. Their children do better in school, and their children make it to the next level. So it's all just, it's a chain reaction.
So I think
it's small reforms.
So I think a good way to end this, because you're one of the great campaigners and charismatic people that we have around now, and it's so exciting to see you involved. What would be your words, as we're in the midst of an election season right now, of the importance of people participating, getting out and vote, and helping candidates and volunteering and so forth?
It's life and death. We saw this past year that leadership is so important, good leadership. It's a life and death matter. So we need everyone to go and vote and make sure we have good leaders running this city. I mean, it is crucial. And I think people understand that now, after the hardships that we've experienced this past year with the pandemic. I mean, in my district, we tripled turnout. Turnout had never been this high. And voting is easier than ever. Absentee ballots, there's no excuse absentee ballots. So you can vote by paper, you can vote before election day. There's early voting now, so you don't have to vote on election day, you can vote before election day. So please, everyone, get out, because it's a life and death matter, and voting is easier than ever.
Well, thanks, Jenifer, for being with us and for being on the board and for really making a difference in all you're doing. And again, Oscar, thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much. I always love being with you and coming on your interview or to your events, anywhere you ask, I'll be there.
And the last word for Oscar. Jenifer, you brought him into us and brought him on the board, and we thank you for it. So maybe you could give him a little salute to end this.
Well, Oscar's a gem of a person. Just a really, really good person with an incredible sense of social justice. And he's also very good at what he does with technology.
Thank you.
Mix.
So that's it. So thanks a lot.